Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hi, welcome. If you're new here, I love having you. I'm just going to get right into it. Today we are discussing Double or Nothing predictions. Both Dynamite and Collision have happened, so now we have the entire match card for the weekend, and we're just gonna get going. So the first match I want to talk about is the most recently announced match for Double or Nothing itself. I'm not going to cover the tag match that's happening on the buy-in. I'm just going to be talking about the main card. That match is, of course, the Don Callis family, consisting of Kyle Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita, and Josh Alexander, against Paragon, which would be Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. Now, this all sort of culminated over the course of this one episode of Collision. Obviously, they had different matches tonight, each members of the Don Callis family. The Don Callis family basically ran Collision tonight. What stood out to me was during Kyle Fletcher's match with Jay Lethal. Adam Cole obviously has a lot of history with Jay Lethal. They're cool, whatever. So Adam Cole was, rooting for Jay Lethal openly. And Kyle Fletcher, man, he went right up to Adam Cole, started talking his shit, was messing with him the whole time. And this is something I've been rooting for I don't even know how long. But Kyle Fletcher is going to hold the TNT Championship. That's happening, right? And I'm so insanely excited that they tease this. And not only did they tease it, but they've already kind of laid the foundation for this to happen. And that is with this trios match that is going on Double or Nothing. I think the Don Callis family is going to win. I think Kyle Fletcher is going to pin Adam Cole. I think that after this happens, Kyle Fletcher, deservedly so, will say that he has a stake in the TNT Championship because he pinned the champ, which is true. Adam Cole and Kyle are going to have a little bit of a feud going into where the whole shebang happens. I don't know if they'll do like a best of 3, best of 5, whatever they'll do, fine. Kyle Fletcher and Adam Cole for the TNT Championship is going to happen at All In. And Kyle Fletcher is going to win the TNT Championship at All In. That's my thing. So I guess for this card specifically, I kind of went all over the place. But my official pick for this match is going to be the Don Callis family. They are going to get this win over Paragon, and it's going to set up a whole lot more stuff. The next match I'm going to talk about is one that I am extremely excited about. Not because I think it's going to be a great match. I mean, it will be a good match, but because Nigel McGuinness is lacing the boots back up. And I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting. So we have officially for Double or Nothing, FTR versus Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Now the question is, do I think that Danny Garcia and Nigel McGuinness are going to win this match? After tonight, I don't think so. I initially leaned that Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia were going to win this match. But after the situation that happened during their little face-off that they had, I don't know. I think that FTR does need this win. They need a solid win on a pay-per-view for the first time since becoming a heel tag team. I don't know if it's possible that Edge would come back. I don't know how long he's going to be out. That's also a possibility that happens. Maybe somebody wins and FTR attacks Nigel and Daniel Garcia afterwards and boom, it's Edge. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But I do think that FTR is going to win. I wouldn't necessarily say that Nigel McGuinness and Danny Garcia have to win this match. I would more so make that argument for FTR. So, as much as it hurts me because I want Nigel McGuinness to win this match, knowing that it is probably like a one-off situation, I'm going with FTR. Next match is the match that I am least excited about on this card, probably. Actually, let me look at the card. Yep. It is the one I'm least excited about. It is the AEW World Tag Team Championship match between the Hurt Syndicate and the Sons of Texas, which would be Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. This is a cakewalk for the Hurt Syndicate. Hurt Syndicate are winning. Like, I don't think that Sammy and Dustin have a shot in hell. Actually, the Hurt Syndicate is just too good. I also am probably just extremely biased because I have such a disdain for Sammy Guevara that, like, I need to see him get hurt. So, yeah, Hurt Syndicate are going to win this match. I would assume that because MJF is now in the Hurt Syndicate, he would have a hand in this. Yeah, it's pretty easy to predict there, but Hurt Syndicate are going to win this match. Next match is one that I am actually excited for, and I'm excited because I haven't seen this stipulation done in years. I think the last one of these matches that I watched was back in like 2006 when it was Jeff versus Matt Hardy. I think that was the last one I watched. It's a stretcher match between Mark Briscoe and Ricochet. You know, it was just kind of, Ricochet and Mark Briscoe was like this underlying feud that was cooking on top of all this crazy stuff that Ricochet was doing, like stealing a man's leg. Yeah, so it was kind of, you know, cooking in the shadows a little bit, and then Mark Briscoe was like, hey, you're a thorn in my side. Let's fight. And look, we're getting it. I'm super excited. I love watching Mark Briscoe, and I think that Ricochet and Mark Briscoe together are going to do, like, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good match. I do think Mark Briscoe wins this match, though. Ricochet's been picking up a lot of wins lately over, you know, even though they're just, like, people that don't necessarily wrestle for AEW on a full-time basis. I think Mark Briscoe's going to get the win here. I think he should get the win, especially because at, what was it, Dynasty, he lost to Kyle Fletcher, so I think Mark Briscoe is going to get the win here. I think he should get the win here. Next match I want to talk about. Okay. The Continental Championship match between Speedball Mike Bailey and Kazuchika Okada. Now, I don't think you understand how bad I want Okada to come up off this title, because Okada in 2025, even like 2024, but I gave him a pass for that Ospreay match. Okada is just, I'm not moved. It, like, the way the matches he's doing are happening and they're being telegraphed, it's just, I can't tell if he looks like he just doesn't give a shit or if my goat is washed. Like, I hate to say that, but it's true, and I'm not super thrilled with this Continental Championship reign. I don't think he should have won it at World's End. It's just, I don't know. But do I think that Speedball Mike Bailey is going to take it off of him? I don't think so. And I say I don't think so because I think that the booking is leading towards this Okada Omega match at All In. You know, this super huge big match. I think that's where they're going with it. I'm not mad at it, but I think that the ultimate goal is to unify the international and continental titles. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, and I'm going to kind of geek out here for a second. if Speedball were to win this Continental Championship, you could still do the unification. And there is still a story with Kenny and Speedball. Let me explain. So, Kenny and Speedball have a history, right? They wrestled before. I can't remember where they wrestled at. But Kenny won the first time. Ever since then, and Speedball has said this, ever since then, Speedball has been looking for that thing to combat the one-winged angel, or to go against the one-winged angel, if you will. And Speedball has said that ever since coming up with the time adventure, that is what, in their opinion, they believe is the thing to finally defeat the one-winged angel. Right? It's a bunch of nerdy shit. I'm not super hyped to the lore or whatever. I know that. I do know that it is, video game, anime related. So I'm not going to speak to that specifically, but I do know what Speedball said. And they said that the time adventure is the thing to take down the one-winged angel. You could take that and build this story going into All In to combine the titles of Speedball needing to take down Kenny Omega. Right? And that's where we get the match at All In. That's where we unify the titles. Hell, I think you should even have Speedball win the match. Honestly. I think you should. Do I think that's going to happen? Not really. I think it's more likely that they stick with Okada until All In. Which is fine. Because, Okada Omega, one of the biggest... I get it. But it would be cool to see someone win the Continental title. And then, someone else win the Continental title. And then have them go against Kenny and All In. And I think it should be Speedball. Speedball has been great since coming to AEW. I think they deserve it. I'm just not sure if that's the direction that they would risk going into. And I'm not saying risk in a bad way. But yeah, I still think Okada wins based off of everything else. But I had to rant for a second because I've had that knowledge for so long and I just need a way to communicate it. So, sorry. Next match I am going to talk about is the AEW Women's World Championship match between Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. I think Toni's winning. I like Toni as champion. I think she's a great champion. I think she's a great wrestler. I just don't like that we're setting Mina up to lose her first pay-per-view match as an AEW wrestler. I don't like that. There is also a possibility that Mariah May comes into the picture here at Double or Nothing. I don't know. There's been a lot of contract negotiation, rumor, what have you, going around all over social media. There is a chance, and I'm not going to say this is going to happen, but there is a chance that if Mariah is staying with AEW, she returns at Double or Nothing. Which, I don't know if she would help Toni or if she would help Mina. Either way, I'm seated. Right? All in all, though, I do think that Toni Storm retains here. It's just, I think that if the match that I'm thinking is going to happen at All In, which I'll get to that in a second, I think they're going to keep Toni as champion for that, because that is a big money match. Okay, so the next match I'm going to talk about actually is the Anarchy in the Arena match. And I have to look at this because I keep forgetting people, or I keep adding people. Let me just read this off of my laptop. I'm so sorry. So for Team AEW, we've got Kenny Omega, Willow Nightingale, Swerve Strickland, and the Ops, which would be Powerhouse Hobbs, Katsuyori Shibata, and Samoa Joe. Now for Team Elite Death, I don't know. We've got the Death Riders and the Young Bucks on the opposite side, which would be Jon Moxley, Marina Shafir, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and then the Bucks, which would be Matt and Nick Jackson. The Team Bad Guys is winning this match. I don't know what is going to happen in this match. I know Gabe Kidd is involved somehow, which was interesting to me that they wouldn't have him in the match, but I do think that he's going to get himself involved in some way. Now, the question is, with Gabe Kidd giving the Death Riders and the Young Bucks the advantage, does anybody come in for Team AEW to help them out? And I have a suggestion. This is something that my delusion has kind of latched onto for the past week and a half. I think this is where we get a returning Eddie Kingston. I mean, we haven't heard that much about, his status. We do know that he was supposed to be healing up and all that kind of stuff, was supposed to be coming back around the summertime. This would be an interesting spot to have him return, especially being on the opposite side of Mox. I would cry, but that's, I think it would be a good person to have come back during this match and help Team AEW. The question is, though, once they get even like that, how are we going to get the Death Riders the win? And I was thinking about this last night, and I don't know if this is going to happen. This is just something that I thought about. What about Jack Perry? And I hate that I'm saying that, right? Because Jack Perry and I got beef. I don't know. I just don't. I'm not fucking with him like that. But I could see Jack Perry coming back to help the Elite and Mox. I could see it. Before Jack Perry got wiped off the planet, obviously he was with the Elite, but then they were teasing some alliance stuff with Mox. It makes sense to have Jack Perry come back and help them get the win. I don't know. In all, though, whoever's returning, whoever's not returning, Team Elite Death, the bad guys, whatever you want to call them, they're going to win. This is the Bucks and Mox's match. Anarchy in the arena. Doesn't get any better than that. They're winning. And that's that. Now to get into the Owen Hart finals. I'm so excited for these, actually. You have no idea. But before I go into the matches individually, I think it's important for me to give my sort of thesis on this. I'm not really a thesis, but the thought that I have surrounding the Owen matches. And that thought is that if someone's getting costed in one of the matches, the other is losing clean. Right? So, for example, in the women's match, if Mercedes gets costed by Athena, presumably, but going in the opposite, if someone gets costed in the men's tournament final, which, for the sake of where I'm going with this, I think Will is getting costed, and I'll get to that. If Will gets costed, Mercedes is winning clean. That's just my thought process on it. I don't think there's a scenario where they have both Owen matches lose in an interference or, some shady shit happens. I don't think that's where they're going with that. I think it would be a bad move if they had both matches not end in a clean way. First, I'll talk about the women's Owen Hart tournament match. Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter. Now listen, I love both of them. I want both of them to win this tournament. I wish Mercedes had less titles going into this. Like, I wish she would have lost the TBS title before getting to the final. And, you know, I wish that she would have had less titles going in. But that's not happening, and here we are. Who do I think is going to win this match? I think it's going to be Mercedes. And I think that obviously the big money match is All In is Mercedes versus Tony, which I would argue that there is a bigger money match if Mercedes were to get costed in Mercedes and Athena for the TBS championship. I think that's more money than Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, but it is what it is. I would love for Jamie Hayter to win this tournament and go face Toni Storm at All In. I would love that. However, Mercedes has been booked to be an absolute beast. And I don't think you're going to slay that beast unless you have someone like Athena Coster. That's just my take on it. So, as it stands right now, and especially because they haven't hinted at anything towards Mercedes and Athena or anything like that, I think Mercedes is winning this match. Now, moving on to the main event, which I am the most nervous about, actually. I have been thinking about the main event of the Owen ever since it was official. It hurts my spirit, but look, Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page. I have been dying for them to go at it against each other. I am happy that it means something, right? That, you got the two, biggest faces of AEW going at it for a chance at the world title to bring the gold back to the good side and bring AEW back, essentially. I'm wearing a Will Ospreay kit at the moment, but I don't think he's winning. I think Hangman has it. I think that, this whole story with Hangman and him having to go through these trials and tribulations, this grief, this hatred, this anger, all of these emotions that he's had to deal with, they're going to have to mean something. Him having to, face his demons and learn to forgive and all these things like that, I think that it has to mean something. And I think that winning the Owen and going to be the guy that finally takes down the tyranny of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, I think that's what will be the ultimate payoff for Hangman and his character. And I just don't think that Will has had something like that to make it believable. Now, don't get me wrong. If Will wins this, I will be the most happiest. I don't even know what. I'll be so happy. I'll be so excited. I just don't think it's happening. And maybe this is selfish of me to say, but I think that it won't be clean. I think that Will is going to have something from his past catch up to him. It's not going to be Kyle Fletcher. I think that thing from his past is Jay White. We have yet to have the feud in AEW with Jay White and Will Ospreay. There is a decade worth of lore between Jay White and Will Ospreay going back to the Indies, New Japan. We could pull from so much shit between Jay White and Will Ospreay. I don't even know. But I think that Jay White returns. I think he returns and he costs Will Ospreay. Now, why would he cost Will Ospreay? Because Will Ospreay is the person he was supposed to face to get into the Owen. Right? He couldn't face him because he got injured by the Death Riders, but Jay White, one thing about him is that when he has an opportunity that ends up going by the wayside or, gets fizzled out or something like that, Jay White does this thing where he blames the wrong people. He, obviously very much so wants to be AEW World Champion. He is going to hyper-focus on Will Ospreay because he was doing that before the Owen started. He's going to hyper-focus on Will Ospreay and take it out on Will Ospreay. And I think that in turn, that is Will Ospreay's match at All In. And in doing that, you have an excuse to keep the top guy, which I'm going to glaze Will Ospreay for a little bit, and keep him distracted from the AEW World title. Because realistically, if I'm being honest, neither Will nor Hangman should lose this match. Which makes it much more interesting as to who's going to win. Because realistically, neither of them should lose. Will Ospreay is probably one of the most over stars in the company. Maybe aside from Hangman, he's the most over guy. Obviously, the crowd is completely behind him. They trust him. They want him to be the guy in AEW. But then you also have Hangman, who has been here since day one, who has been the crowd's hero, essentially. They worship the ground that Hangman walks on. And I don't knock any of them for that. I don't think that having Will lose clean is a good thing, especially if you've been propping him up this whole time to be the top guy in AEW. And, you've had him grind his ass off, work his ass off, put on match of the year after match of the year contender in 2024 and now into 2025 for him to lose clean and not have a shot at the title. That seems very weird to me. But also on the flip side, Hangman has done all of this growth, right? As a character, as a wrestler. You've had him go through this story, this grueling story that the fans have had to be there for him and support him in when he was the worst person in the locker room. When he was that person that you were terrified of seeing on TV because you didn't know what he was capable of. We went through this story with Hangman, and now we're seeing, hopefully, that payoff for that. And neither of them should lose because of those reasons. But if you are going to have one of them lose, the person to have lose would be Will Ospreay. Because one, he needs more of a story for when he does win the title. And two, not having Hangman win this would be devastating for him as a wrestler, for him as a character. You would have people turning on you, at the crowd, I don't know. So for the sake of this, and this whole long-winded thing that I just went on, to make a long story short, I've got Hangman winning the Owen. As much as that hurts. But if Will won, I wouldn't be mad. I would be confused. Not mad. That's it. So yeah, those are my predictions for AEW Dynasty. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree. I'm gonna get off here though and edit this and hopefully have this up by Friday. We'll see. But yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.